Okay, so now what we'll try to do is sync up with my Panther Lake handheld. Now the Panther Lake handheld that I have has much more granular power setting, so I can go all the way down to whatever I want because it's a handheld. I don't have an Apex handheld right now. I don't have a Strix Halo handheld right now, so I can't do that. But I did put this into like it's silent mode basically. It doesn't really make a difference, and it's going to be higher wattage. So this is going to be reflective of a handheld in full watts basically. So we'll sync up the settings here just to get a rough idea of how Panther Lake. A quick look at the specs because it's a little like mini desktop thing over here. Little HP. It's important you guys can see that because it's not like a laptop. You can see there it's the Pro 395 with 8060S, 64 gigabytes of RAM. I've allocated whatever the GPU wants essentially. So the GPU has been allocated 16 gigabytes. It's more than enough. We don't need more than that. And yeah, fast SSD and all that kind of stuff there. So yep, that's the specs. There's a few little things that are going to make this not a perfect test. Obviously, I can't do wattage scaling on the Strix Halo here, but it'll give us an idea of how peak performance is, because you can see here we're at 96 watts. So this will be reflective of if you get a gaming handheld or gaming tablet with a 395 or a laptop with that, and you're at your peak performance, this is what you're going to get. That's cool. The one other slight thing is on the Super V, the Panther Lake, I was recording on the internal screen. There's a tiny bit of a performance hit when you do on the internal screen, probably a few percent. So, I mean, you can theoretically bump up the Panther Lake by a few percent. It's probably not going to make a big difference, but just be aware of that. So, just getting the test parameters out of the way. So, 1200p to start. Native. There's no scaling here. Okay, and we are at high. Okay, so we'll do this little test here. We'll do the best that we can here. So we're at higher watts here. This is basically peak handheld. So the Apex, the Super X, these kind of things, the Asus handhelds. This is probably close to peak of what they're going to get. You can go higher, but it doesn't do anything. I've already kind of proven that. The Panther Lake peaks at about 55 watts, 55 watts. So they're not the same. AMD should pull ahead, theoretically should pull ahead at the higher watts, to be honest. It's just kind of the way that they are. But we'll have to see. So we'll come in here. And let's check the settings. I do expect AMD at these higher watts. It should theoretically pull ahead. It's supposed to be a faster GPU. Every game's different, but we'll see here. So we'll just double check these settings here. So we're at 1200p. No scaling. And we're at high. Just normal high, not ray tracing high. So we'll just go like this here. See what we can get. We're just doing a rough comparison to the Panther Lake. Again, there's a lot of variables here. Unfortunately, I don't have the Super X anymore. It was just a loaner, so I can't do a like for like comparison on those two devices, but that's fine. And yeah, it's pulling ahead here from Intel a little bit. Intel was, well, we'll have the footage on the screen, but it was about 15-ish% slower, and that checks out. 50. Ooh, that was a big drop. 50-50 versus 50-60 level performance. Let's correct that low. The Intel had rock solid low, so I'm curious to see if that was that could have just been a load in issue. Do a little more driving here. Yeah, so it's consistently ahead. The Intel was around 90 FPS or so, something like that. Yeah, that must have just been a single pop in. Maybe that user coming in or something. So this is good, right? 99, 100-ish FPS, depending on where you're at. 100-ish FPS at 1200p, high, native, no scaling. It's pretty good, to be honest. It's pretty good. So it is pulling ahead of the Panther Lake as expected at these high watts. Again, I wish I did have lower watts. Now I do have some other handheld YouTubers like Nelly, Gaming Repairs. She has an Apex, and she's going to get some data. We're going to put it together, and we're going to do a comparison of 1X player based handhelds where we can do actual wattage scaling, low and high watts. There's another drop there. That might be relevant because we actually are seeing that performance drop not on Intel. It could be a driver thing. I don't know. They both have I just installed the brand new drivers for both. Yeah, it's only happened twice though. So I don't know. It could just be a glitchy type thing. Anyway, so it's good. Okay, so that's that there. Let's change up the settings slightly. Let's go on the right side of the road. Let's change up the settings here. And we'll throw in some scaling. Now we have access to FSR and XeSS. Now FSR 3 is garbage, so we're not going to use it. Eventually AMD is putting out FSR 4, and then you would want to use it, but for now we'll use XeSS. It just looks better. So we'll put that on balance there. This should be a pretty big jump. XeSS, generally speaking, performs about the same as FSR, plus minus on Intel. Sorry, on AMD, but you do get better visuals. It's pretty good. Decent jump. I kind of would have expected more, but I mean, we are at 1080p, so, or 1200p. There's another drop. I mean, we are getting some pretty considerable drops here on the AMD. I'm not sure why. I do have to point it out though, so. Now here's one thing that I do need to point out. We can look here how much closer the performance is all of a sudden. So on Intel, we have around 100 or so. On AMD, we have 110. So we've dropped from that 20-ish percent performance gap between the two of them. And now all of a sudden we're down to closer to 10% performance gap with better lows on Intel. Why are we seeing that? Because I haven't changed the watts or anything like that. What we're seeing here is the power of XeSS. So FSR does not provide any type of performance boost on native AMD hardware, for example, over Intel. It's just whatever it's on, it's FSR. That's good. I mean, it's open source. Everything's nice about that. But then if you are looking at Intel, of course, Intel does work on AMD or Intel. But when you use XeSS on Intel native hardware, it's going to give an actual performance boost beyond just what the scaling does. So you end up kind of double dipping with Intel. You end up getting the scaling benefit and you get the XeSS native hardware benefit as well. So we're actually seeing that gap closed quite a bit. So this is, I had a previous video where I compared the Super V to the Super X. And in that video, I did a lot of wattage scaling. And one of the things that I really did focus on is the whole video was using XeSS. Not FSR, because XeSS, generally speaking, looks better. So you'd want to use it on AMD or Intel. But when you use it on Intel, you actually end up with a performance boost beyond what AMD can do. Now, this will be somewhat less relevant when FSR 4 finally comes out. You'll still get that native performance boost on Intel over AMD, but based on the visual fidelity of FSR 4, you'd probably end up using FSR 4 and getting that, and using more of it, like turning it up a little bit higher. But as it is right now, Intel XeSS looks better and it performs better on Intel hardware. So it allows it to close the gap a little bit more, even at these. Yeah, the Intel one was not getting any drops in my test. I didn't get any drops anywhere. So I don't know, maybe it is relevant. It's just something to point out here. Let's go in here, we'll go with low. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to emulate like a very high FPS gaming scenario. So we'll go with the same scaling and all that kind of stuff, and we'll just go with low. So we'll come in here. I mean, this, sure, it's not, this GPU is actually better for like higher FPS at 1080p, but, sorry, higher fidelity at 1080p. But maybe you really want to go for a high FPS. And I'm kind of curious how it will perform in this scenario. Let's drive into the city now. Yeah, a pretty big jump in performance, obviously. That noise you hear, by the way, is my house air conditioning. It's not the computer. The computer is actually very quiet. Yeah, so if you're going for high FPS gaming, of course you can do stuff like scaling, that kind of stuff here. Pretty good. I mean, the lows are kind of worrying, to be honest, unfortunately. I'd have to watch some other people's. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go for high fidelity gaming. So we'll go, we're still going to leave the scaling on for now. That same amount of scaling, 1200p with the balanced scaling, but I'm going to actually turn on some ray tracing. I don't suspect any problem with ray tracing. So we're going to go with high ray tracing here, which is the same as what I did on Panther Lake. I don't foresee any problems here. The Panther Lake did it fine. Both of these iGPUs should be capable of ray tracing. I don't actually know which one has better like raw ray tracing performance. Typically Intel does pull ahead, but then AMD has more raw performance, so we'll have to see how it actually pans out here. so we'll reset that. Okay, so yeah, it does look to be faster, doing better than, whoa. What the heck is that? Weird effect. What the hell? These are brand new drivers, like I just installed these drivers. Yeah, that's a problem. I'm curious, like in the comments, unfortunately this is the only Strix Halo device that I have. I would like to see if other people are getting those weird, like that stuff with ray tracing. I just don't have more than one device to test it on. So this is n equals 1. Like I can't say this is universally bad, but I like smash that guy's car. It is very problematic. So I've seen a couple issues here with bad lows in some cases and kind of bad, whatever that effect is, I don't really know. Maybe it has to do with the scaling. I don't know. Let's come back here. Let's turn the scaling rate off. I mean, it might be able to perform the same as Panther Lake without scaling, and then maybe the scaling won't be weird. Yeah, it's probably going to be around the same performance as Panther Lake without scaling, but let's see if that weird effect is going to be gone. Get out of here. It's still there. It's not as bad. It looks weird though. Why does the game look so strange? It's hard to, can you see that? I don't know, it's hard to describe. Like all the fine lines look weird and there's like shimmering and stuff in them. I don't have scaling on. I mean, that's really strange. I mean, it's crazy alias. Let's turn on some anti-aliasing. Maybe that'll help. I mean, when you use scaling, you don't need it, but we'll come in here. Let's turn on anti-aliasing. We'll just go like that. Maybe that'll help because there's something really weird going on here. Like, see that? How that's flickering up there? This is native. There's no, I don't have FSR or XeSS on. Why is it doing that? The weird road thing is gone, whatever that was. Well, anyways, so yeah, let's just ignore the weird effect. So there is obviously some work that needs to be done from AMD in terms of drivers or something. I don't know. I can test some of my desktop GPUs, and I didn't have issues on my handheld. Look at the, very strange. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what's up. But yeah, the performance here, so basically the performance is better on AMD. Peak watts. I don't have a lower wattage device to test it on for AMD. We'll see if someone can, like one of the handheld gamer YouTubers like Nelly can get me some data on the lower wattage. Like we can go through the different scaling and see how they match up, because I'm very curious to see how lower watts do against Panther Lake. Oh, there's another drop, because Panther Lake is theoretically supposed to be better at lower watts, and it also has better scaling with XeSS, but AMD is supposed to be just plain faster, right? Like essentially think of it as a 4060 versus a 4050. But there's a couple weird things going on here. The lows are quite worrisome. And then we're also getting that weird flickery thing. With scaling, it was like a weird little bit down there. And without it, there's like fine line issues. It may not show up on camera, but there's definitely something weird going on with the fine lines. Let's throw that scaling back on, because that's a bit high, obviously. So we'll turn that off, because we have scaling, we won't need it. We'll go like that. We'll go balanced scaling. And yep, and we'll go to high. We'll turn off that ray tracing. It's gonna be a bit much for, this is not 4K, but it's close to 4K. 3.2K is pretty high. Okay, so that's pretty high settings there, 1800p with some balanced scaling. I do expect this will run pretty well, and maybe it'll get rid of that weird art visual stuff. Yeah, it's way better. Not sure what was going on with that at 1200p. It just looked so bad. So it could be like a drivery thing, I don't know, or I don't know, just something's up with the way it's outputting. The performance was really what I cared about though, because driver stuff, I mean, they can be addressed. If there's some weird quirk with the driver, AMD will just fix it, right? Anybody can just fix drivers. Look at that guy driving weird. But we are seeing here is good performance. So it's doing a fair bit faster than Panther Lake here, at the high watts though. Like we're pulling 140 watts here. So, I mean, versus 55 on the Panther Lake, so a little hard to compare because it's almost 3 times. There's that drop again, almost 3 times higher watts. But so that's the takeaway. AMD is clearly faster, obviously. Now it is only at high watts, so far, my testing, but at high watts, it is going to outperform Panther Lake in most cases, unless the game is specific, like an Intel favored game. I'm getting horrible low drops, and that's a driver thing. So AMD has some work to do here on drivers, clearly. It'll come. I'm sure it'll come. It's very strange because I was not getting this on my handheld, but that was also running SteamOS, so I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, the raw performance is obviously higher than Panther Lake at higher watts. We'll see if we can get some low watt testing with another device, like from another YouTuber who has some data. That'll help. And maybe I'll revisit, hopefully by the time they revisit, this game it's still pre-launch, like it's not out yet technically, it's in pre-launch. So maybe by then AMD will have another driver update, and that'll address the weird drops and the lows. Like it's consistently down, as you can see here. And that'll hopefully address that. And then we can get some better stuff there, and some of the little bit of a weird visual glitch. And then I think what we'll end up seeing here, is similar to other tests that I've done where Panther Lake is able to pull ahead at low watts. Like I'm talking, 20, 25 watts, 15 watts, that kind of stuff. It's really going to pull ahead of AMD. And then once you start to increase the watts, 35 and above, 3540, 4550, that kind of stuff, and of course above that, AMD should be able to pull ahead. The cool thing is then it gives us two type like product lines you can go with, right? So let's say you went with the 1X player, you can get the you can get the Super V or the Super X, AMD or Intel, and pick what you want. Do you want higher max peak FPS? And eventually FSR4 and better Steam support, for sure, better Steam and Linux support, or do you want better scaling right now with Intel and much better low watt performance? It's your pick, and it's nice that we have two options. But this is just a quick peek here pre-launch to see what we can get. I would not, by the time this game comes out in a couple days formally and there's some driver updates, I think the lows will be ironed out in some of the weird stuff. But the takeaway here is they're both good. Ryzen, whatever it is, Ryzen Max AI 395 is obviously offering, oh god, the drops, is going to be able to offer really good performance in this game. Once these couple things are ironed out, you're going to get really good performance here with reasonable settings. Even ray tracing was doing well overall.